Okay, it's the weekend. It's our first weekend for RPG A Day 2018. And the weekends have their own themes, and this week's theme, or this weekend's theme, is NPCs. Today's question is most memorable, and tomorrow's question is about recurring NPCs. So, it might be a little difficult in your mind to separate those two things, right? This NPC who had a big impact, and then a recurring NPC that was favored or beloved or had a big impact or whatnot. So it'll be interesting to see who's reading ahead and who isn't, who gets trapped tomorrow thinking, oh, well, I answered this yesterday. But for the recurring NPC, I've asked the people that I play with face-to-face here in Daejeon for our Star Wars campaign, of the huge cast that developed over time, who was their favorite or which recurring NPC stood out the most. So we'll see what happens with that. I've been playing for a long time, and there's a lot of NPCs that stick out. And answering this question may at first seem difficult for people, like people who are just getting into the hobby, maybe don't have one yet, people who watch more than they play or read more than they play, right? Currently without groups and so on and so forth. But this is not just a Game Master only question. This is not just a regular player question. This question is memorable NPC. There's no other tags on it, so it could be a published NPC. It could be one that you created. It could be one that you were asked to play, in a moment, like to fill out the people in a scene or as part of troop style play or whatever. It could be one that you met in a game as a player. So there's a lot, it's open to a lot of interpretation. Now I am going to answer it from the point of view of the Game Master. And there are two different NPCs that come to mind. And I'm forcing myself to stick with recent ones, because in past iterations of RPG A Day we've talked about this question or similar questions. So in recent memory, two characters have stood out, and I'm torn between which one is most memorable. The one that I present first is probably it. So I'm not going to present it first, I'll present it second. Okay, so the runner-up is this teen rebel character from our Fantasy Flight Games Star Wars campaign. And, it's a street person, part of a street gang. They're surviving on the streets during an Imperial occupation by virtue of all of their separate, just beginning skills as as a gang, and they're trying to figure out which side of the line that they're on. So, the inspiration for the atmosphere of this gang was a Han Solo type, the lovable rogue kind of thing, not really a bad guy, but sometimes forced into doing bad things. So there's a whole group of kids, they're young teenagers, and one of the NPCs I presented as well, having feelings for the leader of the gang. It was pretty obvious. It was written all over his face, every conversation. And later on, when this gang decides they're going to rob the player characters, spot the ambush and are very quickly able to put an end to this plan to relieve them of their goods on the street. But I direct their attention to the top of this building, and here's our teen Romeo on the top of the building with a rope. And Captain Paul Hyman's player interrupts and says, "Is he planning to swing down on the rope?" And he lays out this ridiculous plan for what he thinks this teen rebel is going to do, and he nailed it spot on. I mean, this is how in sync we were, how in sync they were with the NPCs and this particular scene, this particular planet at this particular time. He just absolutely nailed this guy, and I just started to laugh, and that stuck with me. But stronger connection was for a character who was only on screen for maybe 5 minutes, and you can actually go watch the video that this character appears in. This is in our All for One Regime Diabolique campaign. This was the episode where Sebastian Allard, Null Inquisitor, leaves the group. This character has completed his character arc, and this villain, this werewolf that we've been hearing about in the background as the reason for why Sebastian's character exists, and so on and so forth. This werewolf in this mysterious noble family, the Beauvais family. And I only get to portray this character for a moment, and he's facing his death, and the tension and the atmosphere, and then the resulting conversations and speculations about what really happened in that scene make this NPC stand out, both as satisfying and difficult and challenging for me to present, but also because of the resulting controversy. Right? There's always something to learn in RPGs, and this is one of those characters that I will look back at over the years and think about, how did I do it? Would I do it differently now? And that sort of thing. But the malice, the self-awareness, the presence, and the insight into the player character I was interacting with was a very visceral moment for me. And so this Beauvais werewolf character stands out as memorable in recent times. So, how about you? Tomorrow, Sunday, is talking about recurring NPCs. So I'll see you then.